All right, cool. Let's see. Okay. All right, let me get this going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to La Cantina. Boy, oh boy, we had 4 repechaje matches that we will be recapping tonight, and our predictions for Liguilla. We are live on YouTube and Twitter Spaces, and let me introduce Joel. Joel, how we doing?
Greetings, Jaime. I'm doing good. You know, despite what happened, I'm feeling good. I was expecting it, so yeah. No harm done.
Yeah, if you're listening, we're pouring one out for the homies, aka Las Chivas at Guadalajara. You know, we had predicted Santos winning. We had predicted Pumas upsetting Toluca. We had predicted Rayados taking off the champions and Chivas getting over Puebla. Unfortunately, 1 out of our 4 predictions was incorrect. Chivas managed to screw up. And unfortunately, they were eliminated yesterday on penalties. Had to go to penalties. They were up 2-1. And 89th minute, they fell asleep on a corner kick. And Lucas Maia tied up the game in dramatic fashion. Because it is a single game elimination match, they decided to go straight to penalties, in which Chivas also had the advantage. Gudiño had one hell of a game, and it was all up to Chino Huerta to put it away to get us into the next round. He missed, and then it kind of changed the momentum back in Puebla's favor. And then Mayorga ended up missing the critical penalty in death match. It was like sudden death match. So Los Super Camotes, man.
Yeah, and this was a team Chivas had beaten at the start of the season. Of course, this was under Vucetich. They kicked out King Midas. I think things would have gotten better had he been around at least that game. Of course, there's no real way of knowing, but I do feel like someone with his experience, he would have had it in the bag. And that's one of the things we were talking about, how some of these coaches, they've been around long enough. They know how to win these type of games, which is what we said about Aguirre, you know, going into Liguilla. He's been there, you know. He's been there before. But yeah, disappointing with the goats. I think that was the whole thing about removing the coach, was supposedly a lot of the fans felt the team could do more, that there was more to the, you know, put Beltran, move this guy over here, switch this guy like that. And, you know, what we saw was pretty sad reality. Not much really changed.
Yeah, I can say that we kind of went, you know, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. As much as I did not agree and, you know, sort of bumped heads with Vucetich, I do also believe that if this is your guy and you renewed his contract for another season, then you got to see it all the way through. You can't just backtrack on what you did. And I think it's unfortunate. You know, I don't know how the team would have progressed under Vucetich, but I do believe that he deserved the opportunity to see this thing through.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jaime, he had taken them to a semifinals.
Yeah.
And he had even eliminated America to get there. And I think people keep forgetting he never really had a chance to build a squad.
Mm-hmm.
They basically, he came in that first season for him. He came in and it was uphill battle all the way, from losing players to selección to injuries. to doble jornadas. He never had much, you know, much chance to work with the squad, and I feel fans are overly critical, too defensive too. But I mean, what are you gonna do when you're missing all these players to not only to, Mayor, but to the under 23. Um, and he gets to the semifinal, and you think the team's gonna build on that, right? They're gonna take all the good and then pile on some more, and the opposite happened. They lose Macias, they lose like four other players to indiscipline.
Yeah.
They don't bring anyone. And how are fans expecting the team to maintain that level? It's very difficult. And you're seeing the other teams are getting refuerzos. So a team that now you were probably even with, now they're coming in next season, they got that booster shot. Now they're supposed to be stronger, and that's who they're all like, it's like the doggo meme that, you see the small little dog and then the other picture is all buffed up. And that's kind of what happens. And she was the opposite. They didn't nothing. And yeah, the team looked bad and he was defensive and you could argue all of that. I never really defended that playing style, but I was like, how do you expect him to do more when he's having to do the opposite, Because he was still missing players on top of the ones that he lost. He was still missing players to all these other tournaments, Olympics and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they made it to they made they made it to repechaje, which was okay. At least you have that. At least you have that consistency, or at least you're finishing top 8.
Mm-hmm.
Although they finished 9, the whole Atlas thing, but they should have finished 8th. I'm always gonna remind people of that, Jaime. I'm not letting that one go.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not, because people are gonna forget, but I'm not. I'm gonna make sure. It's like, nah,
Pepperidge
dude.
Farm remembers.
So, but I mean, that's at least some consistency as opposed to the Chivas we had been watching, where it was like 5 straight seasons of finishing below 10th, 15th, 11th.
Yeah.
Big bottom of the table. And so, where was I? Dude, I lost my track. Okay, so basically, and it was more of the same now with him, but he never really got anyone. They never brought in players. So I mean, it's like you said, at least let him finish the season if you're gonna get rid of him. But where they did it at that point, and then it was obvious they had no one, that it was a Leaño move. It became very clear, now, especially with all the news that came out. And it's like all of that shakeup just to bring this guy in. And he wasn't, he's new. He's new to the game. And let's see what happens next season. I do feel that he might get 2-3 players. If there was that push for him, the Leaño, the Acrons, his squad, I guess they're gonna put money.
They better. Yeah. Here's my thing. Under Vucetic, he did become like the caretaker midway through a season, and they end up in 7th position. They get into repechaje. They beat Necaxa, and then they play against America, and Chicotres was our hero. Then, we lose to a very, very, very good León team. And, it kind of felt like, okay, like this is the real deal Holyfield. Then we kind of do take a step back. The whole Atlas thing puts us in 9th position. We get into repechaje against Pachuca. We end up getting trounced 4-2. This game against Puebla, it felt like, it should have been Chivas. They should have won the match. They couldn't close out. And it's unfortunate because I had predicted that we were going to play against, either Atlas or America, and that would have made a lot of sense for everybody, for the television,
Yes.
it was a win-win situation. now we have this like sort of underdog story with Puebla. And, here's the thing though, this isn't my first rodeo. Like Chivas have had way more difficult defeats since I've been a fan. So this one didn't really bother me that much. I didn't really have much expectations for this season because we had agreed to renew Vucetic's contract. So I just didn't really feel confident about this season. My problem right now is I don't see much changing. I really don't feel optimistic about next season. And that's the part that really bothers me because we're not going to have a coach that's adequate for the job. We're going to have this guy who's a good friend of the owner. And then you have Peláez, who has been a lot more bark than bite, to be honest. He said that we weren't going to talk about descenso. We're going to talk about trophies and titles. And he hasn't fulfilled that promise. We have not seen progression. And I don't see anybody wanting to join Chivas. We don't have money. We might get Macias back. The only thing that was good news out of all of this is that Oribe Peralta's contract expires in December. He has decided not to renew with Chivas, and we have just
Chivas. Wait.
They did offer him a job, right?
Yeah, but not as a player. They said like Uber driver, like just pick up the food and.
You're gonna be our DoorDasher.
You're gonna be the DoorDash, the Lyft driver. Yeah, he wasn't there. He wants to keep playing. He still has a bit of a fire there, and I'm sad that it ended that way because he did a lot for the selección, and I wanted him to retire, on a high note.
Well,
he ends up leaving through the back door.
I brought out the calculator. I did the math, and he was getting paid a little bit over 2 million pesos for every month. So he was with Chivas for a little bit over 2 years. So he made 56 million pesos in the course of 2 seasons with Chivas. He only scored twice.
Man. Yeah. Well, that was a negotiation. We have to remind the listeners.
That was
between Higuera's
and parting gift.
Well, he did negotiate with Club America, and there was that talk. And you know what? We're never going to get the full scoop. The media gets only some of it. But I do think that at that amount, I don't think Chivas, would pay him that much money. I do feel that there was that negotiation where America agreed to pay like a percentage, at least until the contract ran out, because he was still like, he was still under contract with them. So if they wanted to, they would have to pay off his release clause. And I guess it was just, Chivas was like, we'll take the L with you. Why?
It was a gamble, and unfortunately, it just didn't pan out. They were literally paying us to take him off their hands, and it kind of felt like, oh, he would have filled that elder role, the leader role,
yeah.
the guy that's going to give pointers to our young strikers and maybe help out on the offense. But he did absolutely none of that, and he ends up sabotaging the team in a while because that spot and that money could have been allotted towards something else, a young player or maybe another striker within the league, what have you. So it really is nice to have him offloaded and just away from Chivas because he really just was sucking it up for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's disappointing. But really quick, I want to point out something because I think it's important.
Let's hear it.
I think if you're a Chi hermano, you have to keep this into consideration too. You were talking about how much sense it made to have Chivas, going into Liguilla because of the TV, because it was a guaranteed clásico, either Atlas or America.
Guaranteed paycheck as well.
Big ratings booster. And so we always hear from the Chiva haters how the league helps Chivas.
Oh, yeah, you bring up a good point.
how all these things are made to favor them. One of the big lies is that the descenso was made to protect Chivas, and that's a load of BS. Because if you could look up who was pushing for that, and it was TV Azteca because of Atlas. It was TV Azteca and another company, and I guess it was because I guess they were already thinking of Grupo Orlegui was already thinking we're gonna get Atlas, you know, but Chivas was not in the group that voted to get rid of the censo. I think they were against it, but you could look up those reports because they do the FMF meetings with the club owners or the presidents. They go and they vote on stuff, and we're gonna have more foreigners. Okay, let's vote on it, and then you could see who voted and who didn't. And the censo, it wasn't for Chivas, it was for Atlas. So that's one that I keep seeing on Twitter. People always bring it up.
Chivas voted against the idea of repechaje.
Yeah, see, so it's just people hear it because someone just thought, okay, it's because of that. Someone said it, someone else believed it, and it spreads. And that's the other thing about, well, where was that help? You know, if Chivas is truly being helped by the league, well, where was it? Because they would have needed it last night. Where's that red card? We joked about San Santander. There was a turn a foul from outside the box into a penalty kick, something like that. It's just joking, but it obviously wasn't there. And all the seasons when Chivas couldn't even qualify, the help wasn't there either. So that's one of the things that sort of like people will use, and it's like there's all this evidence over here against it, but a lot of people will still believe it. And I gotta say, while I'm on it, it applies to America too, because when I started watching, I would hear it a lot, like, "Oh, the league favors America," this and that. And the time I started watching, America went on a 13-year dry spell. So after a point, I was like, "Wait a minute, they're favoring them. How come they can't win? They must be doing a really bad job." So it is these things that we hear, and but when we look at you know when we look at the facts, then you see it's just more talk than anything else.
One thing that you do bring up is that I totally forgot about that happened last night was there was an incident with Tiba. It was a stupid tackle. It was early in the game, and it was a decisive action, because it was marked as a penalty kick in favor of Puebla after we had just had the lead for a little bit. So they did not go to VAR. They did not review the play, but it was obviously outside the box. He did land inside the box, but the tackle was done outside the box. We don't even have VAR for some reason. They don't even go to VAR, and Puebla ended up tying the game. So it's like we had that against us, and I was fully expecting to see the refereeing in our favor, but it wasn't the case. So, it was one of those things where it's like, good, we don't have any excuse to, what happened. It was a fair and square loss. And, it could have gone the other way if the referee had used VAR. So I'm glad that we didn't get the benefit of the doubt. But again, I'm just not really looking forward to next season. I don't know what kind of strings Velaz can pull, but, I'm not very optimistic about our chances next season. I just don't see much changing.
I don't think he's even in charge at this point. He's sort of like on standby. I think he's Mauri's safety net, because if he leaves, Mauri doesn't know shit from Shinola about soccer, and it'll be Leaño pretty much running the whole show at that point. So I think he's like, "Hey, just chill over here, and let this dude do his thing." As we talked before, the Leaños and I keep saying Martinez Garza, but I'm not really sure which ones are the ones that inherited all the Mex Louvre, now Akron money, and are one of the main sponsors right now at the club. but they're related, Leaños and all of those guys. So they would pretty much at one point um, sort of take over. You had something similar. It's funny at America at one point with the Cañedos when they were almost taking over the whole team and everything. They renamed the stadium as well. Azteca was the Cañedo White Stadium, and they were trying to usurp the power. So who knows if this is going on? But Mijaime, we have a lot of games,
Yes.
other games to talk, and this is not the Chiva Power Hour, so we need to
I
move on,
agree.
or else we'll be here all night
Yeah.
talking about the novela.
And I do want to remind the listeners out there on YouTube and Twitter, this is not just a 1-2 conversation. If you do have something on your mind, you want to chime in on the conversation, just invite it to speak, and we'll allow you to talk. We did have another match last night with Santos handling business against Atlético San Luis. As expected, they did win, so they are through to the next round. And today we had some pretty entertaining matches with Toluca. As we predicted, not in the best form. Ended up losing to Pumas. I wish Chiquis was here so he could, chime in on his thoughts. But Dineno, remember that name? Yeah, he came back. He scored. He got the goal to give Pumas the victory, 2-1. And we had Cruz Azul, the current champions. They will no longer be the champions. They lost to Rayados 4-1. So those were the results around the league for Repechaje, man. What are you surprised with these results? What do you think?
No, Toluca, they started the season. They looked like favorites. They looked like contenders. They were top of the table. And then towards the end, they just fizzled out. And, Pumas was the opposite. They started catching fire right into Liguilla, and then they just went in there, man, and they took care of business. But yeah, Toluca sort of, not sure what happened there with Cristante, man. His magic powder must have run out. But I think you said it was like over a month without a win.
Yeah, it was well over a month without a victory. We have to go back to, man, I want to say like
Match week 9, you said?
I think the game against America in match week 9. That was, where's the date? September 18th.
They blew their load, man. They wouldn't have the kids out in that's it. They're like, we done. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So they're out. Let's see what's in store for them. Cruz Azul. I thought that they say the campeonitis, but it's always been the stat has always been that teams that make the liguilla 60% of the time will not qualify to the.
That's a crazy statistic.
Yeah, and it's if you keep track, it's pretty much
happens to World Cup champions as well,
Yeah, it has been happening. Yeah, and so but Cruz Azul still, they kind of got in there. I guess it was just their bad luck to go up against Monterrey because they're obviously capable of winning it. They have a very stacked team and they have a very capable coach. And so we have to hand it out to Aguirre because he was getting a lot of hate.
He was.
Up until they won the what was it? The league. They keep changing the name.
They won the Champions League.
Champions League. There you go. He wins that cup. They beat America, if I'm not mistaken, and that was like a huge win for them. But then Rayados won league titles. They won Liguilla, and he ends up because they had gotten some pretty bad results against some like weak teams, but he did business taking out Cruz Azul. He just took out the reigning champion. So I think not surprised. Aguirre Vasco's he's been always a good coach. And if I'm Tata Martino right now, I would be lighting my candles that Aguirre doesn't run away with his league title.
I don't think Aguirre would come back for a third time, bro. That would be.
I do think he would.
That would be redonkulous, bro.
Hey, I'm not against. I'm like Tata, man.
If Aguirre
I'm a
comes
Tata
back
believer.
at the 11th hour to bail us out of the World Cup qualifiers and take us to another World Cup, I
You
will
don't even
shave my head like Aguirre.
look.
I'm putting that on record right now.
You don't. He doesn't have to save. Tata doesn't have to crash the boat. Um, he could just not be getting the results that similar to like Bora Milutinovic when he had the team
Uh-huh.
in 96, 97. He had the team and I think he had just qualified them. I think he qualified the team, but he had a couple of results like a draw in Azteca against Costa Rica.
Mm.
They had like 3 shots on goal and they were all goals. It was
Oh,
one
I
of
see.
those games. It was one of those games. Um, but people were not convinced. It's like Bora, and then I'm like, dude, do you know this guy's like already World Cup expert, and you're
Yeah.
gonna get rid of him because I don't know. But they make this whole big campaign and they got him kicked out, and
I think there's the next in kin, say, Tata blows the next 2 games. I think it would be Nacho just because he's available and he doesn't, he has a pretty good pedigree. I don't think they would ask anybody in the league to,
Well, hey, if we go by history,
I know they did it with Piojo.
but that's what they've done it with everyone. Like whoever's been at the top,
Hmm.
flavor of the month, you know.
What if they
So
asked
that
Solari? Would they do Solari or no?
no, you have to win. You have to have that. If he wins the title, you need to have that
Well, that's what I mean.
that Liga.
Because
If he
America's
wins it,
America's the favorite to win this thing. I'm telling you right now. And
oh yeah,
he's been running this team like a fine-tuned machine. I mean, he would be an immediate candidate to coach
he's the
Mexico.
favorite. But Monterrey already whooped their ass. So I mean, if they face it, Monterrey again,
Yeah, we'll see what
I
happens.
would give it to the Rayados to take it.
Okay. So we get into some predictions. Okay, I get you.
Hey, well, because man, I'm telling you, people don't give much credit to Aguirre, but he's one of Mexico's best coaches. Probably
Yeah.
like what the
When
only one to have an international career, and he had a lot of teams. From Japan to Egypt and whatnot. Um, so I mean,
not
he's
the best track records with either one of those countries, but yeah, I do agree.
hey, but they're not. Who else is getting offers?
Hey,
Uh,
man, don't disrespect Tena and the
but
powerhouse
I
of
mean,
Guatemala.
he's gonna make history. Just you watch. Just you Mexi haters.
He's either making history or he's making guacamole, but either way, we're going to see something.
No, I do think. Where were we, Jaime?
All right, I have a bone to pick with just players right now because, they've been sucking it up for the selección, and then, you go back to your clubs and Raul Jimenez looking like freaking Wayne Rooney out there with Wolves, and then you have Funes Mori scoring a brace. I'm like, yo, why can't you kind of get this kind of form with the national team? Is it because you have all these players from all these clubs? You don't really play together. You don't
Yeah,
really gel together.
pretty much.
And
And then different systems, and
different
everybody
systems, and
different roles sometimes too.
it's like I don't understand it, bro. I really don't understand it. I don't know what Tatas does
I
in
mean, I was
the.
looking at the service that Jimenez was getting in the
Oh yeah,
last 2 games, and
it's yeah.
it's like AYSO under 12 level, passing and centros, and I was just surprised at how these guys couldn't even cross the ball, and I felt almost they weren't trying.
It's crazy because when he scored that goal for Wolves, one of the first people that commented is like, if this was La Selección, whoever was like, say, Gallardo was on the ball, he would have immediately like tried to cross the ball instead of like finding Raul Jimenez on the outside of the 18-yard box. And it's sad because that's true, because that's our instinct. And I don't know why, but sometimes I have to check my prescription and check my glasses to make sure they're not dirty, because I swear, bro, watching Mexico play and watching Chivas play is like the same freaking thing. They use speed on the wings and they send the ball into the box and nobody's there, or it's a terrible cross, but they don't really try to penetrate any other way. And it's just like, dude, it's the one trick pony, man. Like, I don't know what Tata has them do in training camp or in practice, but whatever he's doing, it's not working. It's even got Joel upset. He threw his mic on the ground.
fell. Actually, it slipped from my ear.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I don't.
let me paint you the picture now that we have our 4 qualified entries. America is going to end up having to play against Pumas. So we got that
Yeah,
Ciudad de
Clásico
Mexico.
Capitalino.
We got that Ciudad de Mexico throwing rocks at your bus as you go into the stadium. And one thing I noticed, I don't think Pumas are having fans in the stadium. So I don't know if that will be like a disadvantage for them as they head into this match.
Yeah, they have the. What happened, La Rebel? What happened there? Is it
The COVID thing.
COVID or?
Yeah.
All right. I probably not. I don't think so. Not to that point where it's like players are intimidated to go into Seoul. I don't. I just, especially because the stadium, it has that big racetrack
Mm-hmm.
around it, so you probably can't even hear someone's yelling. Mean stuff. What do you say? I don't.
What
I
did he
don't know.
say? I don't even know, man.
I don't. I just don't think, because there are some stadiums where it's very close.
Yeah.
They
Super
even
intimidating. Yeah.
put the fence up, and people will say the nastiest stuff. Not just like, oh, your sister, or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll say like, hey man, watch your back, things like
Oh,
that. Like
no, dude.
downright death threats, man. Like, I know what car you drive.
Oh,
And
man.
because stuff like that does happen with the players, or they'll get confronted when they're leaving in their car,
We
or
got
getting somewhere. So yeah,
Chaka's
that will
wife getting
freak
death
them out.
threats.
So some stuff like that will, freak you out, and then all of a sudden you can't pass the ball that good anymore. You're thinking of, this dude got to you. But no, I don't see it like that. But I give the favorites to Ame. I think this game's for them.
Absolutely. They've been
I wouldn't
sh- sh-
discuss. I'm
they've
just saying they're favorites, not that they can't lose.
they've been sharpening their talons, and they've been just, like after like a animal, like a predator eats, they're sharpening their teeth, and they're picking out the bones from their last victim. I think America right now is just in really good form, and they should be able to handle Pumas with ease. Atlas are gonna.
Well, I don't know with these, Jaime. I don't know, man.
Who
These
knows?
Pumas have proven to be feisty, and I
Yeah,
think that they're gonna go down with they're not going down without a fight.
yeah. Atlas square up against Rayados. That's a pretty good matchup, man. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do think it could be entertaining, and I'm gonna give the edge to Rayados. I mean,
You
just
know,
the
uh,
more deep squad. It's a team that's been together for a while too, and then Aguirre seems to have finally, figured things out there. So I do think they should be the favorites.
well, check this out. They played each other in September, and Atlas actually beats Rayados that time.
Yeah, but I mean, Aguirre knows what's up, man. I'm telling you, you know, once you get to Liguilla, it's a different ball game, and some of these coaches that know how to play those tournaments. That's why I was bummed to see Buse go, because I know he's good at that. But uh, and I think Aguirre is one of those. He's one of those coaches, man. They've been around long enough. They sort of know. They got a few tricks up their sleeves.
Yeah. Leon is going to play against Puebla.
Yeah, Leon, man. Holland has been doing pretty good job. He's Argentine guy that was, if I'm not mistaken, he was Almeida. He was like an assistant to Almeida,
Oh, okay.
but he did good in Argentina. I think he won one of those Mercosur or one of those cups over there. He was doing good. Then he went to Brazil. Things didn't work out so well, and then he came to Mexico. But he's shown good things, and he did win already with them. Um, that MLS Cup, right? What was it?
The
The league, or what is it?
They call it the League's Cup.
There you go. So many cups, Jaime. I lose track. But
Yeah.
yeah, he won already with them, and I do think I would give them the edge, man. Leon, right there. They've been. I think maybe the only thing is they seem to have kind of an old squad. It's a couple of players already up there in age, but I think you manage them right. Shouldn't be too much of a problem.
And lastly, Tigres and Santos.
Yeah, another good game. I know it might not seem so, but Santos been those teams that they they challenge for the league every 3-4 years. So they put together pretty good squads, and they seem to be on track again to go there. And this will be Piojo, man. Piojo's first liguilla with Tigres. Didn't start off so hot, but he managed to get them on track. I like Piojo. I think Piojo was one of those other that I was talking like Aguirre and some of these guys that they just been they grew up on Liguilla. They know what the name of the game.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would like to point out is after America lost, or was not necessarily lost, but after Pachuca took them 5-5 and they won based on away goal rule, they decided to remove that away goal rule. So any draw will go into the favor of the higher seeded team.
I prefer that, Jaime.
Oh yeah, I'm just letting you know that because that will change. I would think the game plan for
Oh yeah,
a lot of these game coaches and tactics wise, because I can see Atlas just straight up parking the bus for 180 minutes and getting through on that factor. Because when you're playing a team like Rayados that are dynamic and stacked, you can try to minimize and mitigate that damage by just parking the bus. So I do expect America to win. I do expect Rayos to win. I do expect Leon to win. As far as Tigres and Santos, that one's a really toss up, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to factor in the whole home field advantage. So I think it's like a little bit unfortunate. I did enjoy the away rule because it forces you to be the protagonist. But there needs to be some sort of benefit to ending the season on a higher seated. So I understand why they did that.
yeah. Make the regular season more important. Because yeah, there are some teams that sometimes I'll check out.
So 8 teams left. I don't think that the schedule is out yet, but we'll know pretty shortly, probably by tomorrow, since these games need to happen this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I have not seen. I have not seen the list yet of the days, but we probably should be seeing it by tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So you're saying America is your favorite? They're your gallos to win it.
I said that in the beginning of the season, and that hasn't changed. I think
You maintain it.
they've been the most consistent. It sucks to see from a Chivas hardcore fan, but you have to give respect. You see it on the pitch every single week. They've had a bit of misfortune in the last couple of seasons. Eliminations and stuff like that, kind of taking their foot off the pedal. But I think with Solari, man, I think it's their title to lose. Apart from that, I really don't see any other protagonists. Maybe Rayados under Aguirre, or maybe a Tigres under Piojo.
Yeah, and I think if it was just on points, they would have won it. But because you have Liguilla, that's where I see that. Like, it's hard for me to just have one team as favorites. I would put America, Monterrey, and Tigres as a. Those would be my, like, any of those can win it because of the just how stacked they are, the type of players they have, and they just need to come in at the right moment. Catch on fire just at the right moment, and they could run away with it. So, but yeah, I agree with you on America on how consistent they've been. But that's the whole thing with Liguilla. One slip of one bad game, and that could cost you the whole season, which happened to them last season.
Yeah.
Wait, and wasn't it to Pumas? Who was it to where they shit the bed because they were doing that party?
You talking about last season?
Yeah.
Hold on. I know the answer to this.
I'll put the Jeopardy song.
Yeah, the comeback. I remember the comeback. I just forgot. It's been a while.
Because if it was Pumas, that'd be interesting if they play them again. That'll be that rematch.
Yeah, I can't remember, man. I know it was like a 4-0 comeback, right?
I don't know. I just know that I just know that they had that party.
Yeah. Cuartos de final. Man. Memory, bro. I swear, dude. We'll find it. I have Jamie looking it up right now. Yeah. Anyways, though, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things, man. I think America's gonna win, and it's gonna suck because they're gonna have another title on Guadalajara, and suddenly the gap is not closing. It's getting bigger.
The gap. You're still looking for it.
Yeah, I am. 2021 season.
Here, I think. Let me see. I think I found it.
Oh, it was semifinals. It was the season when Chivas beat America. Pumas came back to beat Cruz Azul. They lost 4-0 the first game, and then they scored 4 goals, and then they ended up losing the final against León.
Wait, so it was I think we were just talking about it. Was it the Pachuca game where they messed up because they had the party?
I think it was Pachuca. Yeah.
Yeah, we already we're all mixing
I
stuff.
know, man. It was one of those. It was one of those that like, yeah. It's all coming back where they won 4-2. America won 4-2 in the first leg, and then Pachuca came back and scored 3.
Yeah, but the America partied, man. They partied like
Yeah.
it's 1999.
They scored 3 in El Azteca, and because of that away goal, they scored 3 away goals. They were able to get through on the draw based on away goals. Yeah, crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much repechaje recap. Apart from some of the players abroad doing some good stuff, like Raul Jimenez scoring goals. He's single-handedly carrying Wolves, man. It's pretty impressive.
It was good to have him back because we feared he might not. His head was all busted up. He had to wear like a special helmet, but now it's like just a bandana, I think.
He's wearing like headgear.
Yeah, but we thought it was gonna be that helmet, like
Yeah.
reinforced.
What I do find interesting is the headgear, the way he wears it, is the most protective part of the headgear is on his scar. Yeah, so normally, like with the headgear, like your forehead is where the most protective part of the headgear is, but
Mm.
he has it on his scar, and since his return from his injury, he has not scored with his head. So he used to have like that aerial presence, and he used to score a lot of his goals with his head. He's gotten close, but he hasn't done it yet. So I'm sure he's trying to get that monkey off his back.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, we can keep it pretty short tonight. Do you have any other thing on your mind?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. We could finish it off with Chihuahua talk since we already we're
what
more. What happened?
what I can tell you is everybody has been enjoying the making fun of Chivas online. All the memes are coming in, and I do think that I'm just tired, man. I'm just tired of being the butt of every joke, and it's just like it's been like that for a while now. And it's just
Yeah.
like I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, bro. I only see it stagnating or getting worse, and I really don't have any faith in Vergara Jr. and Pelaez. I think that those two combined are just the blind leading the blind, and just
Ouch.
running this team to the ground, bro.
Well,
It's
I would say I may have a bit more faith in Pelaez. I am disappointed. I do feel like he sold out, but I think that from this is from what we know, from what actually info that was put out there, even by the club. So the club confirmed it
uh-huh.
was that his contract was going to end, I believe, in December. So his contract
Oh.
was going to end, and and I think that's when the whole Leaño and co made the strong push to be like, this dude hasn't delivered, you know, let me take over. And I think they put pressure, and I think that's when they said, all right, that's when they handed over. I think Amadi handed over the keys, and I do think he probably told Pelaez, we're pretty effed without these dudes because there's not that much money. So if you hang around, I'm gonna let him do his thing, and then you could take you could finish this up after he leaves. Because if and that's the whole thing where Jaime, I don't want to be where it's like I want to be like those fans that want the team to do bad just to have
Yeah.
you know
That doesn't
a
help anything.
change. And that's the whole thing though with Leaño is he's gonna be there for the whole of next season, and it depends how he does, if he's gonna stay or not. Because even him, he talked a mighty big game, which I think that was a big mistake on his part, and it's already biting him in the ass. Where he gave that interview and he said, I want to go to Spain and win everything. Then I want to go to England and I'm gonna win everything. Then I'm gonna come back to Mexico and win the World Cup. And so now it's like, he's sort of like that expectation. He put a very high expectation on the coach. The type of coach he thinks he can be. Which I'm not saying don't have that, but don't put it out there. Because now that's how you're gonna be getting judged. And that dude, this one guy on Twitter was clowning on him. They were calling him, oh man, what's that dude? He made his name into different coaches like
Oh, okay.
Michel Klopp something, and that that's gonna keep happening with I feel with Leaño, where it's like there's gonna be that pressure for him to do really good just because he said, similar. I don't know if you remember when Vergara brought in, well, when Vergara first came on, he said, I'm bringing in the best coach in the world. This
And,
was when he went.
oh, okay. And then what did he bring in?
He brought in Yayo de la Torre, which was one of the De La Torre's cousins. You know, Chepo and Nestor is like a relative of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
El Yayo de la Torre, former player as well. But I mean, this guy, you don't say I'm bringing in the best because he thought, okay, I'll have Bianchi in the bag. I'm a hire Carlos Bianchi, who arguably you could have said he was the best or one of the best because he had, he was
Boca.
dominant with Boca Juniors, but
Yeah.
he also won. Before the Clubs World Cup, there was that Intercontinental, and he had won it. So he had beaten the top European team, and he was the best team in South America, and he did come to Mexico. It but I think he came to do a World Cup TV. He was like a host,
Oh,
but
okay.
but there was talks with him, but that's sort of like he built this dude up, so now the fans are expecting this thing and expecting this world class coach, and you get the Yayo and so now everyone is going to be very harsh when judging him. And so here's this guy from Record. He writes what is it, rumors. He has like a rumors column, and he is el francotirador. And he was tweeting. He's already just triggering all these Chihuahua fans because he's just clowning. But he was calling. He said Murcelo, like Mourinho,
Uh-huh.
Murcelo, Klopchel, Guardioleaño. He's he's like, we're fortunate to live in this era. He's comparing them to those three coaches, but Guardioleaño is trippy. I was like, I found it funny. I don't know why fans are getting all bent out of shape. Like, who cares, dude? But yeah, I think he messed up with that interview. Same dude, same mistake that Vucevic did. Doing that interview and saying it's harder with all Mexicans, and then everyone was just on his ass. That pretty much was like he stabbed himself in the back. And so now it's Leaño.
It's
Dude,
like,
they,
look,
they
you
don't
already
they
you
don't pay
already
attention.
yeah, you already have a target on your back, and the media will already pick apart your words when you say things. Like, don't make it easier for them. I've always been a big fan of the undersell,
Yes,
the whole under promise and over deliver.
yes,
I've always
yeah.
been a fan of that, and I'm also like, it's not about like what you say, it's about what you do. And so far, I think we've given Pelas plenty of time to show something, and so far we haven't really. I will say though, just the fact that we're competing for Liga is better than we were before. I
Yes.
just don't think that coaching wise he's made the right choice with Vuse, and I'm still waiting on him to bring in a coach that is adequate for the job, because I don't think Leaño. I think Leaño was kind of just like a safety net. Hey, we have this guy, we can use him.
No,
He's cheap.
I, you, I think, but see, I think the opposite. I think Leaño was the one that pulled the strings to take over the team.
You really think so?
Yes, I do,
What was
sir.
he? What was his title? He was in charge of the youth academy.
Youth. He's in charge of the youth academy, but like we've talked about, his relatives are the Akron, you know, Chivas' big main sponsor, and the family that's always been tied to Chivas. Even the Laños have been tied to Chivas. So these are two families that have been tied to Chivas, and there's talk that even have helped, monetarily helped the club. So I do think that they made a strong push to take over the team, and I think that because they're like, okay, well, if we've been helping, now is your turn. Like, we've been scratching your back. Amaury is your, now you have to scratch ours, and let this dude have a shot with the team. I think he knew if Pusa stayed that Peláez wasn't going to get rid of him, and I do think Busa would at least qualify to Liguilla. Um, I do see that much happening, but I think they were like just let me take it over now especially because of that interview. It was like the right moment, you know. It's like this dude's under heat. People are talking shit. Let's do it now, Just bounce this dude out of here. He, at least under the pretext he doesn't believe in the team. Which and you did. You saw it was almost like a hit job, man. You had all these different media outlets talking smack about Buse, and I was like, what's going on, man? You
It
I
is
wouldn't be
interesting how
surprised.
it was orchestrated. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you did. You had Jose Ramon giving, saying, "Hey, this guy's not the right man for the job." You had Perro Bermudez with, tickling the Chiva fans where they like to be tickled, bringing up Matias Almeida, which was a load of shit. It was anyone that knew anything about his contract knew that that was just not going to happen. And but he was saying, "Oh yeah, the sources claim that they already have Almeida tied in and this." And it's like you have all these fans listening to this, and then they're like, and now they're hating on Musa, dude. They're just like, F this dude, man, get him out of here. And so I do feel that happen. Because I do feel stuff like that happens all the time, where the media would orchestrate certain things, and you do see how fans are a lot of times are fickle, and they will turn on someone. We saw it with Piojo. He comes back from one of the best World Cups Mexico has had, and they're trying to murder him over a Gold Cup. If you see, like, all the media stuff was all negative.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I remember there was this Univision guy going out of his way claiming that the ref helped Mexico
Oh wow.
against Panama, and they were saying, "Oh," and which was funny because then when it was a play where the Panamanian player, like, he falls on top of a ball. Like, he had lost possession, and he busts this AYSO move where he just like almost he's trying to recover a fumble.
Oh wait, was it
It's
the
like half,
penalty?
yeah.
Oh, and they
But
were
then
like,
when they,
yeah, they were like demanding that Guardado should miss on purpose, right?
which was fucking yeah, stupid, man. It was stupid. Pardon my French. It was dumb. And then when we saw they had a clip from another camera angle, you could clearly see that he touched the ball. It was a handball. And I remember this guy, everybody was calling him on it, and he just acted stupid, and he just pretended like not to see, but it was a clear handball. And you know what was more dumb about it? Because you had this whole talking point about, like, oh yeah, CONCACAF is favoring Mexico, and and it's like, dude, CONCACAF was being under investigated. No, they're not under. They were being investigated. That's when you had all this corruption, the whole FIFA gate, and dude, the eyes were on the whole tournament thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, you really think they're that stupid? They're being investigated. You think they're gonna start fixing match fixing right during the whole FIFA gate scandal? It's just so dumb. But people want to believe that, and now you have people hating on Piojo. He does that commercial, vote for the Green Party or whatever. He's a commercial with a parrot, and anything he did was just being used against him until they fired
Hate,
him
hate,
over the
hate,
whole.
hate, hate. It's like the haters club or haters ball.
It was,
Dave
but
Chappelle.
don't you? I remember that. But I mean, Piojo had a lot of good results, and he won that Gold Cup, and it was interesting to see how much people were hating on him, and I do feel that does happen a lot, where the media will influence fans, and people forget, and I've used this example because this is what, like you know my eyes were open at that point, because I hated La Puente, man. I used to hate him. As Chihuahua fan. He was at Necaxa and then America, so I just hated that dude, man. He was like my natural enemy. But then I saw what he was doing with the selección. Also, I hated that he replaced Bora, because Bora was like, he was like a favorite of mine. But I saw he was getting the results, and at that point I was like, he won me over. And I saw how the media managed to get everyone to turn on him. And I said it here before, you go from 98 and then 99 Confederations a win, and the chance of La Puente para Presidente to Fuera La Puente. And it's like, dude, again over a Gold Cup? Since when do you guys even care about that tournament? This dude just put on a really good World Cup and he won a Confederaciones over Brazil, and you're losing your shit over a Gold Cup. I never understood it, man. I still can't. At least for the fans, like how all of a sudden you're making this tournament that much important. You don't even care about the region, and now you're losing your shit because they lost to what, Colombia or whoever it was. It, I don't get it, Jaime. I don't get it, but I see it happening, and I do think if for those that don't like Leaño, he might have just tightened the rope around his neck with that interview. This, his world class aspirations.
Yeah, this dude's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but that one you should have kept to yourself, and then after you do succeed or accomplish something, that's when you show everybody your notes.
Yeah.
But I will say the little clip that he had with ¿cómo se llamaba ese el de Leones Negros, and then he ended up going to Cruz Azul. He was the defender. He's Spanish. Damn, I forgot his name. He's now on the TUDN panel.
He was a former player.
Yeah, he's a former player. Yeah, I forgot his name, but he was getting interviewed by him, and he was he was explaining his tactics of why he does the 4-3-3, and like why he's putting Molina, who's a center defensive mid. Why are you now suddenly moving him to a more offensive role, and why do you have Cornejo playing as a wing back, and he had some pretty good arguments of why he wants to put him in these positions, and it's a little bit tactical, but I was just like, dude, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, bro. But
Yeah.
he's trying to put his little bit of sparkle on the team, his little bit of seasoning,
He he does come from a football family. He's been around it his whole life. I don't doubt that he could become a good coach.
He just never
You
played at
know.
the professional level, so it's kind of hard to take him serious.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, there's been coaches that never played, Mourinho. But I do feel that just the way he has gone about it, it was just the wrong way. I think he could have been a bit more humilde. You know, um, Maybe coach Tapatio for a season or two. Start off like that, um, because I would have preferred if he would have done that at least, because he's been with a lot of the youth players, so he could have rounded up a good squad of some of the best talent and then coached them in Liga de Ascenso and shown what he had, and he would have been the perfect candidate for the first team, because he was like, not only was he in charge of the youth, but he coached, he coached this team, which is something I would sort of liked if the club did, like kind of groom their own coaches, which was something that it was like an idea that was thrown about for a while, and then they sort of like gave up on it. But I mean, if you have a team like Tapatio, then it would be perfect for that, to promote some of your better coaches that are in the youth teams to that second division team, and then if they're doing good, and eventually when you need a coach in the first team, bring that guy up. You have that institution coach, which is like, I think can work. I mean, you see it like in Argentina, for example, and who was they were talking about? I was reading some article about how you like to become a coach in Argentina. I think you have to coach. Like, there's no way around it. Like, you have to put in the work. So you
Uh-huh.
have to coach from the youth teams all the way to the first. So you have to have like almost like a year in each division, something like that. And so,
That's
but I mean,
fair.
when you look at like why they have so many coaches coming up, and then you see like why they do good, and they have coaches that they themselves promoted. It's things that like 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 they have like who did River Plate have? They have Almeida, who was a former player, and then they have Gallardo right now, also a former player.
Mm.
And so when you think of Chivas, why can't they do something like that, where you could have former players, and they have like they had Travieso Guzman at one point, they had Agüero Real, some of these guys that were Nestor. So they have had them, but they have them like in between like a whole laundry list of all these other coaches that they brought from other places. So it's like if you're gonna go through like 10 coaches, like it's almost like you're digging in a ball pit trying to find, the lottery number. But I do feel that that's something that they should work on as instead of like trying to always looking abroad, trying to find some answer out there. I think it's always been at home. Like
Yes, we're
you
always
you you
seeking external, but it's all within.
yeah, I mean if you look, if you look at one of the more successful, which was the '06 team, that was like what about 70% cantera. When you look at the players that made up the squad,
Mm-hmm.
it was high on cantera players, and uh, and then the coach that won it was a former player. So I mean, you do have stuff like that. Then you do get those other wins, like when you had it with Almeida, and that was the opposite of that team, because it was like
A
a
lot of.
foreign coach
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of players that came from other teams.
Yep.
So you have both, but hey, we're supposed to like, okay, so what are we more likely to get? You know, better prospects from bringing in coaches and trying to buy players, or just doing our own. And I would say it's doing your own. I think that's where. I mean, they're already throwing all this money. Got all these players when they let them, coaches that like projects that didn't end, and they end up paying some coach 2 years, a year wages because they sacked them midway through a season. I just
It's all these projects that you again unfinished, and you end up being less productive, counterproductive in that matter. So I agree. Look at Ole Gunnar. He's getting a $5 million. They're paying him $5 million to quit to leave the team. It's crazy.
I that's my dream there, Jaime. That I will get paid to quit my job. Like,
Imagine
here,
like
hey
you're
Joel, here's
doing,
5 million.
dude. You're doing so
Watching the.
bad. We're gonna give you $5 million just to fuck off.
I would, I'll be butthurt for a
Can
little
you
bit
imagine? Oh
until I
man.
see my bank account, and then I
Uh,
won't be sad anymore. It's like the meme. At first I was sad, but then I looked at my bank account.
um.
Yeah, that's my dream, Jaime. Though that one day they're gonna fire me from my job, but with that massive payout.
It's like, yeah, you're a liability. Here you go. Uh, I do want to end this on a somewhat positive note. I want to applaud Luis Olivas and Lalo Torres, because those guys were asked to take penalty kicks in a sudden death match, and both of them did very, very well. And they are promising from the cantera. So
Yeah,
I do want to point that out, that wow, they stand up job for both of them.
were those players that debuted recently?
Luis Olivas debuted this season. Lalo, I think, has a season ahead. But yeah, they were both debuted within the last year. So definitely kudos to those two for stepping up.
Yeah, and that's where I think Chivas is. That's with those type of players that I feel that the team will eventually turn things around. And I do. That's the other thing to discuss. Maybe another episode
Mm-hmm.
of is Leaño doing a good job with the youth, because the last time we checked, all the teams are doing poor. All of them were at the bottom.
Except the women's team.
Tapatio, except the women's. Yeah, they seem to be doing good. But But I mean, in reference to who could go play in Chivas first, um, and so that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not getting any players. But I mean, in the past, Chivas was always like top, at least in the younger divisions, and so who knows, man? Who knows what we're gonna see? I remember reading an article way back with Leo Benhacker, and he was talking about Ajax and the youth systems over there, and he was saying how it takes about 4 years when you're working with, like, you start a project with youth, and it takes about 4 years to see results. If you know, and I guess, like, okay, it makes sense because if you have like a couple players that are like 17, in 4 years they're like 21. They should already be starters. And then the younger ones that are like 14 or 15, they're already pushing into the first team, you know? You're already beginning to see, all right, this guy's going to be good. Because you do see them at that age when you have a good, a player that stands out. At by 18, they could already be first team. But of course, we're talking about like the exceptional players like Rafa Marquez, 18, was already
Guardado,
playing. Yeah, Guardado, players like that. Alberto Medina
Ochoa.
with Chivas. Yeah, Ochoa. See, so I was like, yeah, that made sense. So um, I don't know how long Leaño has been there. Maybe 3 years, I'm guessing. So maybe this next season we're gonna see his if his plans come into fruition.
his
I mean, I'm saying that wrong, right?
his senior year.
Yeah, because it would, that 4 year stuff, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that with a little bit of hope. I do hope that Chivas get Zaid Munoz back from Atletico San Luis because I was watching some of his work, especially when he was at Tapatíos. He's a great player. He's tall. And I'm also still banking on Chevy Martinez. He had a pretty brutal injury, but I think he's back on the team now. So
I was wondering what happened to him because I
yeah,
kept hearing all these good things about it. Cherry,
yep,
babyface Cherry, man. It's like the next Chicharo, and I was like, oh man, once they say this, the next
yeah.
this,
He just like you just
vale,
cursed him.
valió gorro. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, he just, I don't hear about him anymore. So I didn't know he was injured.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, he got injured pretty bad last season, so he's still like somewhat recovering. But yep,
do you know how old he is?
he's 20.
Okay, so he still has 4 more years till he's, he debuts in Chivas as a joven futuro promesa.
Yeah,
He's, no, you said he's what, 20?
yeah, he's 20,
Yeah, no, see, he should already be in the first team.
and
And like you said,
he has played for Chivas, so but very briefly.
yeah, and it's like you said, like someone like Oribe, as much as I like him, that he takes up a spot. But I do feel that, and then the other thing is the whole short season liguilla means the coach is less likely to put him in there because you don't have that much room,
He was included in the Guardians Next Generation 2018. A lot of those
Huh.
players that are on that list never pan out.
Oh, the newspaper,
The Guardian, yeah.
yeah, the promesas. Yeah, yeah. Who knows? It's hard, man. It's hard as youth because you could be top of your class as youth, and then the game changes because a lot of these guys, as they become older, their body changes too.
Mm-hmm.
So once they go into more adult body, then some of them, I don't know, man. It's like they lose their mojo. You know,
Jesus Hernandez was, I believe, the only player that made that list this year. Mexican player. His name's Jesus Hernandez from Gallos.
Oh.
And I guess you can kind of call him a Mexican, Luca Romero, but he is.
He's half. I think he declared himself for Argentina, though.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's not gonna play for Mexico. Yeah.
Was he just born in Mex or what?
I think
Like
his mom.
his mom is, and then
Yeah.
his dad is Argentine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's like a big Agüero fan. Yeah, he's not.
Also, sad news to hear about Agüero that he's not going to be able to play anymore because he had a heart condition.
Did Barcelona just sign them? Because I don't really keep up
Agüero,
with.
man, it was so funny because he signed, right, and then Messi ended up leaving, so it's just kind of awkward. It's like, bro, you told me to come here and then you leave. Like, what the hell?
They were very close, and as youth, they dominated, and they won the Olympics back to back, and they were the two big promesas, and yeah, that sucks that they didn't get to play. So did he even play for Barcelona or?
So he made his debut October 17th. He's played 4 games. He suffered a cardiac arrhythmia. Irregular heartbeats, basically like AFib. And it says Gerard Romero reported that Agüero will announce his retirement following the week due to the severity of his heart condition. And my question is, how did this not, during the medical, how did this not come up,
Yeah, and what was he, a free transfer?
Yeah, he left City on a free.
Yeah, I guess they were just hoping, It's probably desperate, Barcelona, because you're right. Even the Turk team sent Fabian packing, man. They're like, hey, you got a busted back.
Oh man! So check this out. I was curious to see the Guardians 2020. So last year they put Marcelo Flores, and he's obviously doing amazing for Arsenal and for Mexico. And they also put this kid named Luis Puente, and they updated it just last month. It says, it's the moment every footballer treasures, the day he steps onto the pitch for the first ever professional appearance. But for Puente, a dream debut turned into a nightmare, coming on as a second half sub for Chivas reserve side Tapatío last October. The brawny striker's big day lasted just 20 minutes before he tore his cruciate ligaments. Since then, it's been a long and slow battle to return to fitness.
Damn.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So,
man, they just have like a black cloud following them.
They said Puente shouldn't rush his recovery. He's a player who's going to stand out, while Guadalajara manager Victor Vucetich predicted in August. Oh, God.
No, Buse, and that's the thing people don't give credit. He would go and he was following all the youth teams. He would go to the games, and he debuted about 4 or 5 players. Te digo, mis chivarmanos, they're just, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, Jaime. You don't appreciate what's going on, but what are we going to do, man?
What can we do? Appreciate everybody's support on YouTube, on Twitter, on Spotify. We will make sure to check in on the schedule for these Liga matches, and we'll try to get an episode in later on this week. Do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Yes. You're watching on YouTube. Give us a like and a follow. That would help us immensely.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, Joel. I hope everybody has a great night. Shout out to some of the people that hopped in and out of Twitter Spaces. We appreciate your listen, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.